Welcome back everybody, I hope you're having a beautiful day today. In today's adventure of an episode, we're going to be reading some concerning but also fun Reddit stories once again, and I hope you guys are excited. It's going to be a fun time, and if you enjoy, as always, subscribe if you want to, and let's get straight into it. Enjoy guys. Am I the a-hole for waiting to divorce my wife until it was a good time for me? My ex-wife and I were married for over 20 years and we have 2 children together, 22 male and 20 female. For most of my marriage, things were pretty balanced. We shared the housework and the childcare responsibilities. We were each stay-at-home parents for over a year after each child, her with our son and me with our son and daughter. We always had agreements on how we wanted to divide the work, and we generally had decent communication. This all changed when my oldest went to high school. My wife got a new job that was both very demanding on her time, and it was 50% travel. This meant that I had to handle everything about 2 weeks a month, and when she was home, she wasn't really holding up her side of the agreements with work. I did my best to be accommodating, and we worked through redistributing chores and housework a few times to make it fit her schedule better, but a lot of the work just kept on falling to me. When the pandemic happened, things got worse, but I tried to just suck it up because I knew the lockdowns were temporary. Finally, when things opened back up, things continued to decline, and I asked to go to counseling. She missed a lot of our meetings and just didn't commit to it. At this point, I decided that I wanted a divorce. Unfortunately, it was a really tough time for the family. My son was getting ready to go to college in person after his freshman year being remote, which was both a financial and logistical challenge. At the time, my daughter was also having some issues with depression, and I'd become her main support person with my wife gone half the time. I made a choice to wait until my daughter was in a better mental state and our family was in a financially stable place before I filed for divorce. I did my best to continue to contribute, and I was essentially a single parent for 3 years. On a few occasions I brought up cancelling again, but my wife said things were good and wouldn't go. We pretty much didn't have the horizontal mumbo for that period of time, and there was one summer where she essentially moved to North Carolina for 6 weeks for work. She came home on some weekends. Last year, after my daughter started sophomore year of college and she was in a better place mentally and emotionally, I sold off some of my stock investments to create a trust for my kids to ensure that college was covered, and then I filed for divorce. At first my wife was really pissed, then she left to live in North Carolina again. When she came back 4 weeks later, she said that she wanted to work through it, but I told her that I'd made the decision to leave years ago and I wasn't interested. We eventually worked through mediation and we got an amicable divorce. My kids live with me now and they support me, but all of my in-laws and even most of my family outside of my sister think I'm an a-hole. They believe that I should have forced the issue more when we started counselling and either divorced or made it clearer to my wife how important counselling was to me. They've called me selfish, and some of my in-laws are refusing to interact with my kids when they're at my house. For example, my daughter FaceTimed her grandmother once this summer and she hung up when she saw that my daughter was at my house. Oh my god, that's ridiculous. They also created a bit of a scene at my son's graduation in the spring, refusing to acknowledge me and demanding that my son choose to celebrate with them or me rather than having dinner together as a group. I encouraged my son to go with them and we had our own celebration later, but something happened at that dinner and my son's lived with me since and been almost no contact with them. I honestly feel like I did what was best for my kids, but now it feels like their mum's family is punishing them and I feel like a terrible father. I admit that it might have been more mature to address the issue head on with my relationship with my ex, but I felt that it was about more than just the two of us. Frankly, I feel like my lack of backbone years ago has made this divorce even worse for my kids, but I also believe that if I had to do it again, I'd still prioritize my kids over my own feelings and make the same choice. So, am I the a-hole? Edit. Holy crap, this blew up. First off, thank you to folks who provided feedback in the comments. I really felt like and both the positive and negative comments helped me get a little perspective on things. I've seen a few comments come up multiple times, so I figured that it's worth answering them here before I move on. Number 1, this is an account that I created to ask an embarrassing dating question earlier this year. I created it because my main username is recognizable, and I reused it now because I don't really want to air my issues associated with the known username. Number 2, when my wife took the job, we were doing well financially, but the job still came with a big raise. I was making about $200,000 a year, and the job she took gave her a raise from about $80,000 to $140,000. That was enough that we could go from saving enough to have an emergency fund to having enough to pay for our kids' college outright. We both work in tech, but she works for a defense contractor, and some of the work needs to be done on-site, and only one of the offices related to her work is near where we live. When we originally discussed the job, her plan was to work in the high travel role for some time, and then try to transfer to a lower travel one near us. She got promoted a few times, and staying near our home wasn't an option unless she took a bit of a pay cut and a title cut. When we divorced, I was making about $280,000, and she made a little over $300,000 a year. Some folks were also confused about my stock comment. I'm a software engineer for a big tech company, and about 20 to 30% of my salary comes in the form of RSUs, restricted stock units. I'm not an investor by any means, and I was just selling off stock mainly to cover my daughter's college and pay off what debt my son had. I know a lot of people are jumping right to an affair, but I really doubt it. In school, my wife and I were the obnoxious kids who reminded the teacher about homework, and she's a massive introvert. Her working late in a hotel room is much more likely than her sleeping around or keeping some secret family There is a chance I'm wrong here, but I think this is more a situation where Reddit sometimes thinks that all divorces end in infidelity. When I say we had an amicable divorce, I mean that more in the legal sense than the emotional sense. Uncontested might be a better term. The only significant asset that we had that wasn't easily split was our home. My wife loves the house, and I frankly wanted something different, so she bought out my portion of it. Our kids are adults, so there's no custody. Our assets are mainly divisible, so there's no issue there. Our salaries were comparable, so there was no alimony. We each had a car. Overall, it was pretty straightforward to divide things evenly, and neither of us wanted to draw things out. We didn't end the marriage as friends by any means, but from a legal standpoint, it was amicable because we decided on an arrangement with a mediator, and only involved lawyers briefly to actually draft the final paperwork for the judge to sign off on. Right, okay, so your wife was completely clocked out for so long. No, I don't feel like you're the a-hole, OP. This comment says not the a-hole, you did the best thing for your kids. This comment says his title should be changed to until it was good for me and my kids. Both OP and his ex checked out years before. Family are mental for being so childish around OP. Yeah, and hanging up the phone when they saw OP's daughter? What the hell's that about? This comment says the kids clearly know who the unreasonable ones are, given the son has already cut them off. OP should not worry about the trash taking itself out. Be thankful. This comment says not the a-hole. Oh no, you wanted your daughter and your family to be in a stable place before you left somebody who didn't even try at all. Oh, the horror. If they want to be petty, they can be. I understand feeling guilty, but you can't take on responsibility for the actions of others when you tried your best. Staying for the extra 3 years gave everybody the best outcome, and it's not like you didn't push for reconciliation. Your wife dropped the ball massively and just went, your kids support you, and their opinions are really the only ones that count. Yeah, OP's wife pretty much moved out. Like, what the hell are you meant to do? How are you meant to keep a relationship going? Especially when you're with somebody who's barely even trying. OP says that they want to go to counselling, and their partner wouldn't even bother to show up to the meetings. This comment says, of course the in-laws are going to bark and moan because their golden angel got blindsided by a divorce, a separation that she cemented when she told you, no, I'm not going to counselling. Your in-laws sound not only insufferable, but incapable of accountability. It may be too much effort to explain to her a-hole family that you tried for years to fix the marriage, but she was too busy somewhere else, not the a-hole for doing what's right for your children. It sucks that the in-laws are being so crappy to them, but hopefully they'll develop new relationships and bonds with other people who aren't incapable of empathy or rational conversation surrounding major life events. Yeah, that's such a good comment. OP also left this comment. My ex-wife really doesn't talk to me much, but when I brought up the FaceTime thing, her response was essentially, I don't control my mother. My ex is not treating my kids poorly, but she also continues to prioritize work over the kids. My daughter is in therapy for her depression, and I've offered to pay for my son to go if he wants to go. Yeah, that prioritizing work thing definitely sounds about right. She prioritized work over her marriage and also still over her kids. Like, people can live their life the way that they want to, but I don't feel like you're the a-hole here, OP. Post number 2 is called Am I Overreacting? My husband went to a bachelor party where escorts stayed at the villa. This one's going to be long, so please bear with me. Last weekend, my 35 female husband, 38 male, went to a bachelor party in Cancun. The best man booked a private villa that's out of the main city and is pretty secluded, but it's fully staffed and right on the water and has plenty of rooms for everybody in their small group to have their own. My husband didn't really want to go because we've been so busy with work and other trips this summer. He told the groom and the best man that he was out, but they were adamant about him going. They said they couldn't imagine it without him, so the best man bought my husband a non-refundable plane ticket and pretty much said that he wasn't taking no for an answer. Leading up to the trip, my intuition was screaming that something about this wasn't on the up and up. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I had this yucky feeling in my gut. The week of, the best man sends the itinerary, and that includes dress attire details. Stuff like bring your best swim trunks like you're dressing to impress at a Vegas pool party, and plan themed nights such as a black light night and a Miami Vice night. My husband and I laughed thinking that it was silly to be dressing to impress at a sausage fest, but we figured the best man was only trying to make it fun since it was such a small group of them. But my intuition was gnawing at me again. The afternoon they arrived at the villa was fine. Hubby sent me photos and a video walkthrough of his bedroom to show me the view from his balcony overlooking the ocean. We texted about a lot of work stuff. We have a business, but I could tell later that night that something was different just based on the change of his tone in his messages. I just figured they were busy. I didn't text him anymore, and I tried not to read too much into it. The next morning, their first one there, my husband posts on his Instagram story a photo of the breakfast table at the villa. Nothing special, but it just had a pretty view of the pool and the ocean in the background. Later that morning, I happened to look at the villa's Instagram, and I saw that they reposted a tagged video from a woman's story. It was of her and 2 other women eating breakfast, and she panned over the table and out to the view of the pool and ocean. I figured it was probably the people who stayed there at the villa before our husbands arrived, and the villa had just gotten around to reposting it, until something caught my eye on the dining table. It was one of the decorations for the bachelor party. I saw the same thing in my husband's story too. I thought that can't be right, but after quadruple checking, it was the same decoration that her husbands had set up specifically for the bachelor party. I then went to this woman's profile and I looked at her other stories and I saw that those women were actually there at the villa the night before, dressed up for the black light night, were partying at the villa, and were now having breakfast, meaning that they stayed the night there. I admit that I stalked this woman's Instagram for the majority of the day. One of her stories showed her and the woman hanging out in the pool and all our husbands in the background. Then she posted a photo of them all sitting around the table gambling together. She was sitting right next to my husband. I was able to see one of the other women's stories as well, and she actually had her OnlyFans link in her bio, and I was able to see her ex account was full of you know what. I lost my mind. I immediately called my husband to confront him, and at first he tried to lie until he realized that I actually knew and I wasn't just baiting him for info. He said that he didn't know what to do. The best man said that he had a surprise after they arrived at the villa, and apparently it was these escorts staying there with them for the entire trip. My husband said that he planned to tell me when he got home, but figured that if he told me while on the trip, I'd tell the other wives and then he would have basically fried the other husbands there because it would have gone nuclear. I've never been so livid. How on earth would anybody think this is appropriate for strange women to be staying there? None of those men are single. The best man has put all of his friends in a position of being trapped at a secluded villa with escorts and nowhere else to go, and now they have to keep a secret and lie to their wives or fiancés so that they aren't the rat of the friend group that outed everything. Am I overreacting? Or is this absolutely insane for somebody to think is appropriate? My instinct right when I found out was to tell the other wives, but I wasn't sure if they'd given their stamp of approval on this, and I was just the clueless wife whose hubby never told her of the plans. My understanding now, based on conversations I've had with my husband since he got home, is that I'm the only wife that found this out and knows. Do I tell the other wives? Do I risk hurting the marriages of my friends with this truth bomb? I feel like I'm part of the disrespectful dirty secret by keeping this information from my friends. I'm so sad. No, you're definitely not overreacting, OP. I also feel like it's a red flag how your husband just didn't say anything the whole time. Like, did he cheat on you too, OP? Did they all know about it? Did they all cheat on their wives or something? I feel like that's such a red flag. I feel like anybody in that situation would be like, okay dude, this is super weird, and surely they would have told their partners immediately. The top comment says, blow the best man out of the water. The first most important rule of being a best man, do not let anything up the marriage or any relationships. He failed spectacularly. The second top comment says, I'm a married man. You don't have to keep anything secret. Those men are not your friends. Edit, let me add here that your husband should fully support you. If you want to tell the wives, he should realize that he's in some very hot water right now. And if I were him, I'd be furious at the best man for putting me in that position. The comment below that says, another married man here. Absolutely nothing about this story is acceptable. I'd have been sick arriving at something like this, and I would have told my partner immediately. Oh yeah, 100%. Oh, that's so sad. And yeah, the best man sucks. This comment says, are you sure that he didn't cheat? Also, I would not want to marry a man that had escorts at a bachelor weekend. I hope the bride knows. And they also said, also not overreacting. I would be sick. Yeah, I feel like you have to tell everybody else, OP. Yeah, this comment too. Guy here, you're not reacting hard enough. At the very least, warn the bride to be. Yeah, definitely, OP. You're not overreacting. All of the other wives need to know about it too. Oh, that's so sad. And I also don't really like how your husband just put up with it too. I feel like if you're in a situation like this, like that comment said, you tell your partner straight away. Oh, that's so sad. Good luck with this, OP. But yeah, you're definitely not overreacting. The next one says, am I in the wrong for locking my husband out of the house because he wouldn't stop bringing stray animals home? So my husband, 32 male, has a huge soft spot for animals. Like, it's a nice trait and all, but it's getting out of control. Every time he sees a stray dog or cat or even a freaking raccoon, he brings it home just for the night to make sure it's okay. We've been married for 5 years, and in that time I've come home to at least 20 different animals in our house. Oh god. Some were covered in fleas, some chewed up our furniture, and one time he even brought home a possum that hissed at me when I went into the kitchen. It's beyond stressful, especially since we already have 3 pets of our own. I've told him countless times to stop bringing strays home, but he brushes it off saying I can't leave them on the street. Well, last night was the final straw. He comes home at midnight with a stray goat that he found wandering near a park. Yes, a goat. And he thought it'd be fine to let it stay in the living room overnight. I lost it. I told him he's being ridiculous and that he can't keep doing this, but he wouldn't listen. So I did something drastic. While he was out in the backyard trying to build some makeshift pen for the goat, I locked the doors and I told him he could sleep outside with it if he was so attached to it. He ended up sleeping in the car because it was cold, and now he's furious with me, saying that I overreacted and that it's cruel to lock your own husband out. I told him that I'm done living in an animal shelter and that it's either the strays or me. He says I'm heartless and I should be more compassionate, but I feel like I've put up with enough. Am I the a-hole for locking him out because he wouldn't stop bringing random animals home? Right, okay, so I do feel like your husband is in the wrong, definitely, and I understand the point you were trying to make to him as well, but does that mean that you should have locked him outside for the night? No, I don't think so. But are you the a-hole? No, I also don't think so. Maybe a little bit for that, but your husband does really need to stop doing this. And also, like this comment says, raccoon and possum are not stray. They're wild animals. Don't bring wild animals into the house. Wild animals can be very dangerous to the resident pets, even if they have been vaccinated against rabies. Locking him out of the house was extreme, dangerous, probably illegal, and doesn't really set the stage for a rational compromise. So yeah, you're a little bit the a-hole for that. I don't know where in the world you live that there are that many strays. My husband and I have been married for 14 years and haven't even seen that many strays, let alone been able to catch them. So I really don't want to be giving advice when I don't know your situation, but it seems like agreeing on the difference between a wild animal and a stray is a good place to start. Yeah, that's such a good point. What are you doing bringing possums into the house? This one says not the butt face. What he's doing is dangerous. Fleas are a nuisance and they're hard to get rid of. And more importantly, last I read, raccoons are the #1 carrier of rabies. Your husband's playing a dangerous game. Yeah, your husband really needs to stop bringing animals into the house, especially like that comment said, ones that aren't strays. And the goat probably belonged to somebody, but you definitely should not have locked your husband outside, OP. I don't think that really solved anything, but yeah, all the best with it though. That sounds super frustrating. The next one's called, am I the a-hole for telling my sister-in-law the world doesn't revolve around her and her kids? I, female 33, am a mother of 2. The other day was my son's 5th birthday, and my husband and I had a party at our home. The party caused a bit of a rift between me and my husband's twin sister, Eve, female 36. Eve and I don't have much in common, and I usually only see her during holidays and special occasions. She and my husband are not particularly close either. For context, Eve has 3 kids, ages 9, 5, and 2. A few days before the party, Eve sent me a message saying that she may not go because it's going to be during her youngest nap time. I told her that her kid is more than welcome to sleep at our house, and we can put her in the youngest bed. Eve said that she'd think about it, but she probably won't come. Eve didn't message me or my husband again, so we assumed that she wasn't coming, but she did turn up on the day. Like 5 minutes after she arrived, she asked if the bed was set up for her youngest, and I explained that we weren't expecting them, so I'll need a few minutes to get it ready. Eve asked me if we don't keep our kids' bedrooms tidy, which really irritated me. Eve's daughter slept fine. She did fuss a bit waking up, but at least the nap time issue was solved. She saw the cake that we had for our son, which was hidden in our kitchen so that he wouldn't see it before it was time to blow out the candles. She said that her kids will not eat that kind of cake. It was a lemon cake, if that matters. I know that a lot of kids probably aren't keen on lemon, but it was what my son likes. I told Eve that we had some candy in our kitchen that our kids could have so they don't feel left out of having a treat. They ended up leaving abruptly before we got the cake out and only said bye to my husband. And then they came back with some chocolate cupcakes from the corner shop before we'd done cake and candles for my son. They were only gone for maybe 20 to 30 minutes and started serving them to their kids. This caused some of the younger kids at the party to start fussing because they wanted the cupcakes too, and there wasn't enough to go around. Oh my god, Eve is so frustrating. Eve is so the a-hole here, OP. Eve also repeatedly connected her phone to our Bluetooth speaker to play music without asking us when we already had music playing. Oh god. I asked her to stop it because it was making the house sound like a mishmash of music, and she said that I'm being a grump. No, you're being annoying, Eve. I guess that was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. And after the party, I told her that the world doesn't revolve around her and her kids. She called me selfish and said that I need to lighten up. She and her family quickly left. My mother-in-law and father-in-law were still at our house, which made things quite awkward. Eve's been giving my husband the cold shoulder since, and I'm wondering if I'm the a-hole. No, you're so not the a-hole, OP. Eve sounds insufferable. Yeah, this comment, so sister-in-law shows up without confirming, criticizes how you keep your kids' rooms, complains that your son's birthday cake isn't to her kids' liking, so she goes out and buys them what they like, and then she served them to her kids before the birthday cake even comes out, in front of the entire party, and then she co-opts the Bluetooth and refuses to stop, and she called you selfish, laughing my ass off. Wow, that's spectacular projection right there. She customized your party to her preferences, and was surprised that you had a problem with that. You're not the a-hole, but your sister-in-law? Wow. Yeah, like the comment below that says, I can see why husband is not close with his sister. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you're not the selfish one, OP. Oh, that's so frustrating. This comment says, not the a-hole. People who are selfish and rude will often accuse others of being selfish and rude if they're not given exactly what they want as soon as they demand it. If she's staying out of the way, take the win. Yeah, that's a good point. Oh no, you're giving us the cold shoulder. Can you please continue to do that forever, please? Yeah, so self-centered. Actually sounds insufferable. You're not the a-hole, OP. The next one is called, am I the a-hole for yelling at my family to leave my daughter alone and stay away from us? I'm 42 male and my daughter is 23 female. I raised her as a single dad. 4 months ago, my daughter got divorced. It was a divorce. He broke her and it was a hard time for us, so I won't get into details. After her divorce, she moved back into our house and she got depressed, so I comfort her and I hug her a lot. If she feels sad, I just hug her and I tell her that she doesn't need to worry about anything as long as her father's alive. I cook for her and she cooks for me. We go out for dinner. We hang around and basically just spend time together. Now, 3 days ago, my daughter told me that my parents and my siblings kept telling her to move out. At first, they were polite, but recently they got aggressive, and they told her it's inappropriate for a grown daughter to live with her father and spend so much time together. I told her to calm down and I'll talk to them. I was so angry. I called my siblings to my parents' house. I said if they thought my daughter living with me is inappropriate, then they should have told me instead. Why did they have to go to my daughter and force her? She's already suffering enough and I'm trying my best to take care of her. They said they just wanted my daughter to live on her own and it's inappropriate that she's living with me for so long. I said it's none of your business. I don't ever want any of you near me or my daughter. The way you guys are thinking is so up. I'm trying my best to help my daughter and I won't let any of you screw it up for me or my daughter. I left and I went home and I asked my daughter to block everybody for now. Now I'm getting tons of calls and texts from my parents and siblings. They're explaining themselves, but I'm ignoring them. Today, even my aunt called me and said that I should listen to what my parents and siblings are trying to say instead of cutting them off. How would you ever be the a-hole in this, OP? And also, why does the rest of the family feel like they even have a say? The top comment says, not the a-hole. You're being a good and supportive dad when your daughter needs you. Your family should have no say in the choice that you make. It's lovely to have a close bond, and it sounds like it'd be healing for your daughter after what she's been through. She'll find her own place when she's ready to, and that's something the two of you can figure out without any unwanted interference. Yeah, that's right, you're not the a-hole, OP. And this one too, not the a-hole. What the hell kind of twisted parent thinks that way? My daughter and I do all that stuff together too. Are these freaks sexualizing your relationship with your daughter? Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Do they actually mean it that way? They're probably just jealous that it's making them look bad because they're parents. I'd not talk to anybody who said something so ugly to my child. Yeah, and the comment below that, they're disgusting. They don't understand good parental roles apparently. Yeah, is that what the other family members meant? That's so messed up, and yeah, it probably is rooted in jealousy. But yeah, you're so not the a-hole, OP, and I feel like that's enough for today. That was such a wild episode, and I hope you guys had a good time today. I've got 2 super cute wholesome memes to show you before we go. I'm sorry, but with the evidence I've gathered, it's obvious that you're a blessing. Oh, that's so cute. Thank you, cute little ducky. And you guys are too. You're an absolute blessing. When you ask her about her day and she tells you and you genuinely enjoy it because you love her. Oh, that's so cute too. Like, oh, I love hearing you talk. That's so beautiful and a beautiful place to end today's episode. Thank you for watching, guys. I hope you had a wonderful time today. And if you did, make sure you subscribe if you want to. And the comment of the day today goes to Mr. Nightfish. Story 4, cheating and lack of personal accountability. Name a more iconic duo. Yeah, oh my God, how bad is it? Cheating and a lack of personal accountability. Every single day we read that. Like, oh, I did something horrible. But surely it's not my fault. It's actually ridiculous. But it is definitely entertaining to read about. Okay, I'm out of here. Thank you for the support, guys. I really appreciate it. Make sure you look after yourself and have a great rest of your day. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye!